Time is limited. If you're using YouTube as a way to be up to date, you may be better off using AI automation to avoid wasting your valuable time. Here's one approach where I'm using a hosted instance to ingest YouTube transcripts on a regular basis, summarize them, and then send them to my preferred communication channel. In my case, I'm using Slack. I also have make.com in the middle, since I also like to collect the data in Google Spreadsheets. And this is how it works. First, you define a set of YouTube channels that you're interested in. Then a Python job A is getting the transcripts and ingest them into a SQL database alongside some interesting statistics. Python job B sends the transcripts to Groq to summarize the content and finally sends it to make.com. Make.com retrieves the data, routes it to different systems like Slack, Google Spreadsheets, or Discord. You can make this completely free if you are using your personal device and just leave it running in the background. Otherwise, the requirements for running this on a VPS are also not very high, since the RAM and the CPU is roughly about 200 MB of RAM and 1 CPU in total. But before we get into the implementation, could you do me a quick favor? If you like this kind of content, it really helps if you press the like or subscribe button. Thank you. Now coming to the setup. First, you will need to clone the repository, which I will link in the description. You will also need Docker and Docker Compose. And now if you look into the env.example, you also need some API keys like the YouTube API key, then Groq API key and the webhook for make.com. First, you need to go to groq.com, Groq with a Q, create an account, go to API keys and create the API key. Also, you need to go to the Google console. You have to select your project. In my case, I only have one project. And here you can, for example, search for YouTube. Press on YouTube version 3, manage. And you already see my consumption over time. Go to credentials. And then you find the API keys here. And as you see here, I also have make.com credentials, then create an API key. You can call it whatever you want and just create it. And finally, we will also need the webhook for make.com. In our case, this is my webhook. And you can easily create it by just create a new node. Webhook, custom webhook, and then you just say add, give it a name, save it, and there you go. So now you need to fill in the credentials to the .env file. Just take the example template .env.example, copy it to .env, fill in your credentials, and you should be fine to run Docker compose build. In my case, this is very quick. Now you just need to edit Docker, YouTube integration, channel CSV, add some other channel, channel 3. So you just search for a name that you're interested in, save it, leave it, and then you can continue. And now you have to go to make.com, create your own scenario with a webhook, as I showed you before, and a router which feeds the results into different endpoints. For example, we have the Google credentials here, and here I add the content row by row to a Google spreadsheet. And then you also have to add Slack credentials, so you have to allow make.com to access your channels. And then you just have to fill in the channel type, user, text, the blocks. I have also added to the repository. Save it. And you should be fine to run it. So now I'm starting the webhook. It's waiting for new data. And now I'm running Docker compose up. And after some time, you will receive new data from your service, as well as new messages from make.com. And of course, you will also find the new rows inside of your Google spreadsheet. And if this somehow fails, you can always investigate the database. Go to data and then open YouTube data.db. Open it and you can look into the channels and videos. But you can also look into the history of make.com. Look for one specific execution, check the data, and if you encountered any errors, this would be a good place to start with. There you go. Now you avoid watching YouTube videos non-stop. And of course, whenever you receive an interesting summary, you can always watch the whole video, just like this. In this video, I want to show you how. As always, for more content like this, hit the subscribe and like button. And see you in the next video.